Hi, welcome to my channel, The Machine Learning Engineer. Today we continue with another video on the series LLMOps, and we continue speaking about Model Context Protocol. And the topic of today is to build an MCP custom connector for ChatGPT. We covered recently in another video, we create another custom connector, but this time was to be compatible with the Cloud AI infrastructure. Today we will do it to be compatible with ChatGPT. Besides that, the both had to become fully compatible with the NCP protocol, the protocol designed by Anthropic. There is some differences that we will cover today on this video, on this demo. I will explain the application, the NCP server I prepared to be fully compatible with ChatGPT, and we will include it on the previous application where we had a multi-tenant architecture with NGINX. My name is Juan. I'm a system engineer with more than 30 years of experience in the IT sector and the last 10 years dedicated to AI and machine learning projects. So, as I mentioned you before in previous video, we essentially create a multi-tenant application with a NCP server that was compatible only for Cloud AI. Cloud AI is the version, the SaaS version you can access to your subscription via a web browser. And then on to create your custom connector, you need to prepare your custom NCP server with some specific configuration to be able to connect them via your subscription to the in this case Anthropic infrastructure. In this case, we are going to connect the NCP server, a new one, because we need to do we need to do some specific changes just for OpenAI, and we will create a second version of the NCP server, and this version will be fully compatible with the NCP server. Both of the NCP servers share the two main requirements. One is that you have to implement HTTPS so you have to implement HTTPS or SSL termination on your public on a public IP address that you need to expose to internet. So this is what we get with the NGINX reverse proxy. So this means that you have to have a public IP address in a public domain, and you have to have a fully compatible and trusted certificate issued by a recognized certification authority. In this case, we are going to use Let's Encrypt. This is already explained on the previous video. We will cover it again in that one. And then on from the reverse proxy to the NCP servers. So first of all, we set up the tunnels, SSL tunnels or HTTPS connections had to be compatible with TLS version 3, and then on this will create an encrypted session from Cloud AI or ChatGPT or OpenAI infrastructure to our reverse proxy, to our NGINX reverse proxy. And then once we have this correctly set up, the application running in Cloud or in ChatGPT will connect to our NCP servers. This NCP server needs to implement dynamic registration from our NCP clients. So they need to implement dynamic registration in the on the using the protocol OAuth version 2. So this dynamic registration will allow to dynamically, once we create the connector, register in our MCP servers, and then on it had to support as well, implement the protocol, fully implemented the OAuth version 2 to do the authentication and do the, well, request a token. We will explain this, issue some temporary credentials, do the initial authentication with these temporary credentials, and then on issue and token bearer, and finally create a session, in this case for 1 hour, to access to the protected resources, that in this case is the root SSE in each MCP server. As I said in the previous version, in the previous video, we cover a full MCP server compatible with the Cloud AI platform. This MCP server, the only different, sorry, the MCP server is connecting to the same now as MSSQL database, but this is absolutely relevant for the video, for the topic of the video. We will not change the logic, the tools that we are exposing. I'm not saying completely the truth, because that there is some how to say matiz in this matter, because of the current implementation of the ChatGPT and OpenAI platform. There is some explanations or notes aside that I need to do, because it's not I need to adapt the previous MCP server that was fully compatible with the MCP protocol to be also compatible with the implementation that OpenAI had done of the MCP protocol. So this is this current implementation, and I will explain you why I'm saying that. Later on the documentation, I will show you. So the question, the custom connectors in OpenAI, I will pass you later on this on the documentation, have been designed for the time being. This is potentially going to change later on, with a very specific way. They are compatible with the MCP protocol, but you can only implement two tools, search and fetch. This is because they they designed these MCP connectors to become only available for the chat and the research capability, to be an extension, to extend to provide more context to these two capabilities. So they implemented with some restrictions to make it only available for these two capabilities in ChatGPT. That's why in the implementation you will see on the video, I need to implement these two tools, and inside the MCP server map somehow the four original tools I had implemented in my MCP server, which is an MCP server which is able to expose data in a Microsoft SQL server. And then in that original MCP server, I have four tools. One is describe, list tables, another is sample a table, and the fourth one is execute an SQL query. And then on what I had to do here to make the MCP server work in with ChatGPT infrastructure is create obviously two tools that are the kind of official tools that support the ChatGPT custom connector, which are search and fetch, and then create some specific prompts to instruct the model to call the original four tools. This is happening for the time being with in the enterprise subscriptions. For the personal subscriptions, they already permit, they are in beta mode to have there is an option, the developer mode, which allow to create fully compatible with plenty of any tool that you may want to expose. So fully compatible MCP servers on the same way that we did for Cloud AI. So the explanations that they say is, okay, they don't want to allow to do writing on the data side on your MCP server, and they want to use, at least that was the initial thoughts of OpenAI, they just want to provide additional context. This is more like a context extension and not so implementing the MCP protocol, but only for context extension. This is just fetching or searching information in a private repository, in a private database, private data lake, whatever is your MCP server doing, but not allowing to write because they consider this still dangerous. In the subscription, in the enterprise subscription, still they are using this way. This is what we will see, and with practically or zero changes. If you have a personal subscription which implement, sorry, which personal subscription need to be Plus or Pro. If you have Plus or Pro, you have available the development mode, and you can connect to an MCP, a pure MCP server, a fully operational MCP server. You can see here in this is I have a plus, and then only you go to your settings in data controls in connectors. If you check this is the same MCP server that I use to connect my Cloud AI subscription, and the other one, let me check where I have it. So exactly this one, this is an enterprise subscription, and here the only, yeah, the only two you see here, we don't have any information about the tools because you are not allowed to connect you cannot connect to NCP server which is not implementing only these two tools, search and fetch. Also here you don't have the development mode available. So depending which subscription you have, you need to implement one or the other. So again, for the time being, for enterprise subscription is not available the fully capable NCP interface. Is only through the fetch and search tools, and if you had a personal subscription Pro or Plus, um, Plus and Pro, you can implement using the developer mode. You can connect to a fully operational MCP server. And then in terms of the infrastructure, where we keep using, as I show you here on the main architecture diagram, we have our external users. We have our entry point of the infrastructure. This is, as I mentioned, we can. The idea is to create a multi-tenant architecture. We have multiple MCP servers, and we expose all of them behind a unique URL which is exposed to our internet. So the point which is exposed to internet is our NGINX reverse proxy, and then this is as well the point where we terminate the SSL connections for coming from the Cloud AI or ChatGPT infrastructure. So this is you connect with the browser, as you can see here, with your browser, you connect to the, or maybe better, you can see here, you connect here to with your browser to the Cloud AI platform, and the Cloud AI platform will connect via HTTPS to, first of all, we will create an HTTPS session, an SSL version, a session to our NGINX reverse proxy, and then once the SSL session is done, we will start the following the protocol to create a, SSH session during the registration or the creation of the custom connector. This is common for both OpenAI and ChatGPT. We dynamically register our NCP client. NCP client is either your subscription. This is running on ChatGPT or Cloud AI infrastructure, and is you have there an NCP client and is connected out so dynamically registered in your registration server. We will cover this later, and then asking access to the protected resource, which, as I mentioned before as well, this is the SSE route in our NCP server. Once the session is done, we have a session for 1 hour. After 1 hour, it will automatically the application, the client will start again and as a process to request a new token for the next hour, and if you can continue using this process works automatically. These two requirements, as I mentioned you, they are common for both, but there is a slightly different implementations. Cloud AI is pure NCP protocol. ChatGPT, depending on your subscription, you have to implement the reduced version of the only using search and fetch tools, and masking or mapping the functionality via prompt to the other tools, and if you had a personal subscription, you can get access to all functionality of the NCP server via development mode. So our infrastructure is not going. The reverse proxy is not changing. The Servbot Let's Encrypt is not changing as well. This Servbot Let's Encrypt is working with the Let's Encrypt. We get a certificate from Let's Encrypt. This is an authorization certification authority. Let me show you this. I think we can Let's Encrypt. We can cover it. Let's Encrypt certificate. This is a Let's Encrypt. So it's a well-known certification authority that you more than 700 million websites, as you can see, and together with the Let's Encrypt certificate that is requested. So you create it at the beginning of the implementation. Once it's created, this certificate is by default valid for the 90 days. And then on with the Servbot Let's Encrypt, the Servbot bot, this is just a Docker, which implements some functionalities which are checking every 12 hours if your certificate has expired or not. The certificate is still valid. If nothing happens, it's not valid. It's renewing the certificate automatically and for another 90 days, unless that you decide to either reduce the renewal time window or extend it. It's up to you. 90 days is a good time. I recommend you to leave it like this if you are not pretty sure what to do. What more, we have our two different MCP servers. We will cover today the MCP server ChatGPT, and then on the connections to the database, that is pretty much the same. This haven't changed. We have query sanitization and also read-only mode, just to avoid doing any changes on the database. We just allow to read data. We don't want to write any data on the database. And also query sanitization, which when the ChatGPT or the LLM create a query, if you try to do writing something on the database, updating something, deleting something, execute um, statement procedure, whatever, this will be blocked in the MCP server, not allowing to do that. We only allow to list tables. That is the implementation. How I did it. You may have other requirements. That's it's up to you. This is just an example. But in my implementation, I only allow list the tables available behind the MCP server. Um, uh, I allow to also describe tables, execute queries, select any kind of select, join with join, without joins. That's not a problem. It's just something that the model will create instead of you and executing via this tool, but only in React mode, and finally sample a table. So get a number of records of a table just to show what is the kind of data that you had there. Again, both server activate had the dynamic registration and OAuth version 2 enable, and well, for the rest they are pretty much the same. So this the Cloud AI is on the path demo. So in the folder demo in NGINX, and ChatGPT on the folder /ChatGPT. Okay, let's go to cover the code. Let me docs. So, well, first of all, we start with our Docker Compose. Our Docker Compose, obviously, we had an environment file where we have all the variables and passwords, everything that we need to set up our Docker Compose. So we have an MCP server for ChatGPT with a Docker file, container name, and then on a health check. Our MCP server for Cloud, probably I need to change that name. Our NGINX, our Servbot for renewing certificate. Here we simply reload the certification. The command this is purely the NGINX. Let me show you. I don't know if you are familiar with NGINX. NGINX is a well-known reverse proxy, quite mature on the market. So they had a Docker version, so you just simply pull the Docker and then configure the files, the global configuration, and then on the configuration of the different servers. We will cover this later. You can have multiple server configurations or only one for all the servers that you are exposing. The NGINX server, as I mentioned you before, is the termination of the SSL tunnels. Also, this means that we had to install the certificates and the certification chain of the certification authority in the NGINX server. So we had four Dockers running on our Docker project, Docker Compose project. The ChatGPT is exactly the same that the other one. We are using a conventional Python with Debian, Python Docker. We install the ODBC client. This is PyODBC, and then we run our server ChatGPT. In server ChatGPT, we have long script this time. So we implement from OAuth 2.0 the 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 tools. Sorry, in server underscore o auth is the Cloud AI MCP server. So we try to import it. Is not, we will create it here on the on the script. We load our environment, login here, authorized methods, out, allowed unauthorized methods, uh, unauthorized tool calls. This is something we need to implement for the registration only, and then all the, well, configuring the environment in few words. Here we are, these methods are used for the validation of token and creating tokens every 1 hour. Also validating if the host, this is all of the security measures, validating if the redirection URI, when I will explain you later, when you are requesting the token during the AUTH protocol, you in the first port you are sending a redirection URI, and here we are testing, checking that if the URIs are the redirected host. This you can send it either via environmental variables or the request is coming from one of these four domains. We do this just to restrict that the authentication, the tokens can be only requested from these four domains. This can be you spoofed, you have possible to do, but as soon as you had a URL exposed to internet, and this is something you will hear during this video, I will insist a lot. Yeah, you need to protect with any measure that you know or you imagine or you can implement the entry point, the main entry point, which in this case is the NGINX server. And here we had some configurations on the NGINX server. We had some security configurations. I mean, we had also some other security controls on the NCP server. We had the security controls at the database level. You are exposing your private data to internet, so it's a huge responsibility implementing this correctly. So yeah, this is one of the controls I have implemented as well. So these are helpers for our process for the OAuth version 2 protocol. Here config database serialize raw data. This is because the PyODBC connector library return the data. Sometimes it's not, depending on of the uh, configuration of your database. You may have some values locale, the locale, depending on the locale of your database, you may have some characters that are not correctly parsed. In order to correctly parse the objects, the PY or DBC rows, we have this method, generate records. This is for data generate, how to say, a unique ID. This is for the cache. Here to parse search queries, another method. This is all of the helpers too. As I mentioned you before, you need to embed and help the NCP server in this case to just using the fetch and search tools that you expose to the NCP client, use the original forwards. And then that's why I'm creating here different helpers to allow me to implement the same functionality I have on the original NCP server. The test command. Here, all this start is build an SQL from search. And here again, parse schema table, quoting then. So this create table fallback. So yeah, a fallback case that the if you don't have or you are unable or the model is unable to create, I send a generic query just to get the schema of the table I want to or you want to understand what is the schema of a table. If the model is not able, which is not common but can happen using fetch and get, is not able to create a proper query, we create I just run a default one. Here as well get a table sample fallback in case of that again the model is unable to create an appropriate query. So we had always fallback methods case that the model is unable, and this happened because of this strange configuration that OpenAI had done to create custom connectors. Here we have the official tool that I can expose to the client, search EMP, and then on here, yeah, I had to implement a lot of logic to just map these two tools to the current implementation. Here, fetch, the same. So you can see we use kind of search when we want to list tables, when we want to describe a table, when we want to get samples of a table, we consider this kind of a search because we are getting information and extending the context. And when we want to get data using a specific SQL query, we implement it through the fetch tool. Okay, so you can take a look later. So it's quite more complicated configuration. And here we have the OAuth endpoints, authorization server. This is a new one. This is new one. This is only for open ID configuration. This is something we had to implement apart of the conventional or configuration for NCP, this OpenID configuration. That's because OpenAI was how to say, running a long, a long path on the direction of Open API, and then on somehow they try to make now walk on the direction of the NCP, and because of that, still a lot of the configurations that are connected with Open API. We need to implement this specific method to create a proper custom connector compatible with ChatGPT. OAuth is protected resources. This is conventional method for the protocol for OAuth. Register, authorize, token, health check, and this is the health check. That's not nothing particular. This is just to every MCP server connected to Cloud or to ChatGPT is polling every X time. Uh, um, Let me X time if the server is still a keep alive, and then on in ChatGPT we implement four methods of the SSE, server-side sessions. No, server-side events. This is a sessions protocol in HTTP. So in Cloud, we just need to implement head and post. Here, we can implement options, get, head, and post. So all these methods, you can see here, we had the content type, no cache, keep alive, this is for head, and also which kind of methods are allowed here to handle SSH. And here, this is for the post, which is the once you has registered and you are authenticated and authorized to get the SSE route, you will be working practically using this method. In this method, you had the initialization. This is now pure NCP protocol. Notification initialized, tools leads. You can see here that we just implement search and fetch. We cannot implement any other. If you don't implement it this way, you will not able to connect to your connector to ChatGPT, at least for now, tools calls, search, resource list, product list, and etc. Now our Starlet application server with all the roles that we had. This is pretty much the same that the server in in Cloud AI, but we implement a new route for this method, OpenID configuration, and also we have here additionally SSE get and SSE options. Finally, here we create our Starlet application, and here we run it with Ubicon. Now, here you have some helpers for renewing the certificate and set up the initial certificate, and this is the certificate that the Therbot composer is calling. You can Therbot renew is internally calling this certificate, this script. Now, if we go to NGINX, you can check here. We have the NGINX configuration. Here, this is global configuration of or your reverse proxy. You had only global clauses here. That is affecting to any server that you have. And here in SSL you have the chain of the key and the certificate, sorry. And here in your conf.d you have the default configuration. Here we had two servers, AT, which is just used for the Therbot to renew the certificate, and then we have the 443. This is the SSL, the HTTPS connected, so the encrypted session. We had the full chain and the private key of our certificate, parameters for SSL, and then on we have the route, which is just simply returning that the server is running, and then on we have the implementation. Here we have for Cloud AI. This we will not cover it here, and you have here ChatGPT. You have the health endpoint. Here we had well-known authorization server, protected resources, and OpenID configuration. So here, once there is a request that has sent to domain slash ChatGPT, is redirected to this MCP server ChatGPT container, which is the container where we have implemented the server ChatGPT server underscore ChatGPT MCP server. So here we had routes as well for authorization server, well-known domains. This is used on the registration and authorization process. OpenID configuration. Again, here, this is because they are implemented when somebody is just asking for this to the root. Here we have the register route to do the dynamic registration, authorize, token, SSE, head, options, and under options you can get once you pass this or you pass any of these routes, the protocol will redirect you either post or the get to the route SSE and to the when you post something to the resource, also you are redirected to the route slash messages. So it's quite complex, the protocol. You see here, I had here an implementation of the OAuth 2.0 protocol. So when this is a ChatGPT client on the chat on OpenAI infrastructure, and this is our MCP server. The client, in this case, your client embedded in your subscription, is going to send a post to the raw ChatGPT register. You will send with the post a dictionary with your client name and the redirected URIs that where the MCP server had to answer. Again, this is key to avoid that somebody can connect to our MCP server from outside. That's why we are controlling what is the URLs that are allowed to connect to our registration server and also to our authorization server. Once you send a post to this route with these parameters, the MCP registration server will send you a client ID and a client secret. Then on you make a get to /ChatGPT authorize with parameters, your client ID, your redirect URI with this ChatGPT slash callback at stay random. This is just to as well create some entropy and allow how to say somebody getting so this entropy is only produced on the ChatGPT side, so and is assigned to your user this how to say avoid to any other is connecting to this or to if you are able to spoof this post just because you know what are the redirected URIs that you need that the ChatGPT is sending or yeah, ChatGPT is sending, you will not able to implement this random state. So because this is something that is the seeds of this entropy seed is attached to your subscription in ChatGPT. So once you send this, the authorization server is going to send you a redirect with your code, authorization code, and a random, the random for this random state. With this, you will send another post to ChatGPT token, and then in this case you sign an authorization code that you received from here. Sorry, authorization code is you get it where you get it. I know exactly. Grant type is just the type that you are asking for an authorization code. Sorry, it's the type of the what do you want? I want an authorization code, and then on you send the code that you get with this redirect, your client ID that you get from the registration server, and the client secret that you get as well from you from your registration server. Once you send this post, the authorization server will send you an access token. The type is bearer and the expiration timeout. In this, by default, 3,600 seconds. You can extend or reduce this. If you reduce, well, once the token has expired, the client will how to say start the process from here. We had as, already for this session the client while the connector is this happen at creation when you connect your subscription with this MCP server. So you keep this on your local computer, and then on every time that the token expires, we go to the step number 2. And then on once we had the token and valid token, we send with every post that we send to the to the route SSE, we need to send a valid token. If not a valid token, automatically the process will go to the step number 2. So as you can see, the process is quite complex. This process is exactly the same that what happened in Cloud AI, and this obviously is done to avoid that anybody connect to our MCP server. And then now let's take a look to how this works. Let me check where I have the connection. So as I mentioned you before, in personal sessions, you had your connector, and in connector you had in advanced settings the developer mode. You see it's in beta mode. This is not happening on enterprise connections, so you have to activate this here, and then on create a connector, and this is pretty much the same that we saw in Cloud AI. You get your name, here you put your URL, okay, and then on you can say trust the connection. We are gonna remove this one, manage disconnect, and delete. So here we are gonna connect this to database, for example, and no need to. Here we connected to the demo because we had developed mode, and I trust this application. And then once you create it, you click create, and then you will see here that is now connected. We have all the original tools we don't have here. You can is in depth. So now you want to use that one, you just go here and probably we need to create a new chat. New chat. Oops, let me one sec. We are in developer mode exactly, but I need to check why connectors is connected or not connected. Refresh. Probably I need to refresh my ChatGPT connection and new chat. Come on. One second. Well, finally I reviewed it and it's working again. As you can see here, I make I ask the database to do a list of the tables. It's calling the tools, etc. And here I am describing one of the tables, types of batch. So, well, pretty simple and it's working really well. One second. Okay, sorry, it was an interaction. Now, in the enterprise subscription, you proceed the same. You just create a connector. Here is exactly the same. Instead to use the URL demo, we use the ChatGPT, which is the connector. I will not create it again. And then on here, as you can see, it's exactly the same, but you don't have the list of tools that are available because it's understanding that you have only fetch and search, and it's not possible to connect. Instead, once you have this done, you can see here that here you don't see the developers mode. You only see connectors, and in connectors, you use connectors. You can check which connector you want to set up. You use for that connection, and then on you can ask the tell me describe the table, describe the table registration data, and then on it will yeah, exactly, even it's correcting me the that. We are using ChatGPT. We can use another model. It's not, yeah, different types of but the ID in that table. Please now is, yeah. Yeah, sometimes here this method is not working tan good than the original one. Batch tips, no, batch tip exactly. Sorry, batch tip. Sorry, different batch tip in table. Let me registration data in table. I expect to OpenAI, yeah, just have it here, and obviously it's working quite fast. Here is much more complicated configuration in the enterprise subscription because we are not allowed to use the developer mode. Here is much more flexible, but well, I suspect that it will not take a lot of time after they implement the full protocol in for the enterprise subscriptions. That is, it is like it is. We can't do anything here. It's just how they had this set up. If you have an enterprise subscription, you probably there is much more security concerns in this kind of from the OpenAI side or from ChatGPT side because well you are getting access to data in your private data of a company and maybe they are much more conservative than Cloud AI in that matter. If you had a personal subscription, you are accessing to your private data. You potentially you can configure as well this to MCP server in your company. You have the correct data, you potentially can do that as well. It's not because at the end of the day, the entry point is public, it's a URL in internet, and potentially you can also connect to that. But again, if you are in a personal subscription, you have access to the developer mode that at the time of today, in 6th of October 2025, is not still available on the enterprise subscription. Again, my expectation is that will be available the same, and we will work similarly like we work with Cloud AI in ChatGPT, but well, for the time being, you have the two options. Both of them are implemented on the current infrastructure that we had in this multi-tenant architecture. One MCP server compatible with Cloud AI and personal subscriptions of ChatGPT, and the other one just compatible with enterprise subscriptions of ChatGPT. And that's pretty much all. Thank you very much for watching the video up to this point. I hope that you find it interesting, useful for your job, for your training, for whatever reason you're watching this video. And if so, just give me a like, subscribe to the channel if you are not already subscribed. Consider becoming a paid subscriber. This way you have access to projects, to end-to-end projects like this, where I explain a topic end-to-end and you have access to the code and the configuration files. This we had already 30 different projects end-to-end, so different topics, agentic AI, RAG, computer vision, and others. Topics like this, connections, NCP, a lot of NCP, finance AI. So these projects are only for paid subscribers. The rest, more than 900 videos with the content is public for the rest, but only this, which is quite a lot of more job, is only for paid subscribers. As well, you can help me with making comments on the video and also sharing with friends and colleagues. Thank you very much and see you soon.